I'm Ben Meiselas from Legal AF, joined by co-host Karen Friedman Agnifilo. A jury deliberating a case involving a January 6th insurrectionist by the name of Brandon Fellows, someone who was violent, someone who broke into a senator's office. He represented himself throughout these proceedings. It was held in contempt by Judge McFadden, a Trump appointed judge. So he's already been sentenced to 5 months in prison for constantly lashing out in the presence of the jury and saying this is a kangaroo court over and over again, and verbally abusing and attacking the judge. The judge just had enough and said, "Yeah, I'm holding you in contempt. I don't, regardless of the outcome of this case, you're going to jail for at least 5 months." Well, the jury, had a note that they just sent the judge, and what they wanted to know is, here, we'll just pull up the note. I'll read it, and you'll see the jury's question, and then you'll see the judge's response. The note says, "We wanted to confirm that the defendant does not have any personal information on individual jurors, since he was defending himself, including names, addresses, etc." And then the judge responded, "Both parties are given limited biographical information on prospective jurors at the outset of the trial. The court collects those sheets from the parties at the conclusion of the trial." The judge's answer still may cause some concern to jurors, but it just goes to show you, like, these are the people, when Donald Trump, you see him giving these speeches and saying that these are patriots and these are incredible people. I mean, to this day, that's what Donald Trump is saying. He made a song with them, a January 6th anthem he made that they released on Apple. The Republicans in the House of Representatives sent a congressional delegation to hang out with people like Brandon Fellows. And this is why it's like, that's not normal behavior. It's totally outrageous. And Karen, you spent nearly 3 decades in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, rising to the position of number 2, serving at times as the acting Manhattan District Attorney. So as you see the concern by jurors, you get it, right?
Yeah, completely. I mean, the judge's response here actually concerns me a little bit. If I were the prosecutor in this case, I would ask the judge to actually clarify and answer the question, because it's jury deliberations, jury notes. It's strangely a cause for reversal if you get that wrong. It's very technical, and it's very much a grounds for reversal if you get it wrong, whether it's the charge that's read to the jury or how you handle jury notes. And in this particular case, the judge really doesn't answer their question. They specifically say, we want to know, does he have our addresses, right? And he doesn't say. He just needs to say one way or another. And the reason that could be problematic is clearly he's going to be convicted, and clearly the jury's afraid, right? And when this gets appealed, he'll probably have an appellate lawyer, and the appellate lawyer will say, look, this jury pool might have been tainted because they were scared and you didn't answer the question, and by not answering, you scared them more, et cetera, whatever. Like, I worry. I mean, clearly, also, though, and hopefully the judge made a record of this, clearly that he did see their address or some version of it. And that's why he didn't want to alarm them. And that's why he didn't answer the question directly. So I think this is his way of sanitizing it to not alarm them more. But there's a story that I want to tell about, an interesting story that this case reminds me of, because I had a defendant once, and I've told this story on Legal AF before, but it's an interesting story, and I think it's worth noting here, where he basically was similar to this in that he wanted to represent himself, and he kept disrupting the courtroom. He kept disrupting the trial and the trial proceeding. And ultimately, what ended up happening was, this was a guy who had a long record in multiple states. He was a very dangerous, violent person, and he carjacked a car, and he took the car, and then no one was in it, but he took the car, and he went on a high-speed chase throughout Manhattan, and throughout like the entirety of Manhattan for like 45 minutes. And then he ends up in a head-on collision with a police car and injuring the police officers. He injured multiple people along the way, hit other cars. It's a very serious, scary defendant. And he kept, he refused to have a lawyer, so he wanted to represent himself. And the reason that's scary and dangerous is he gets to cross-examine the witnesses himself. He says, when he would say things like, when I did this, you did that. And, it can be very intimidating and very scary for witnesses, and jurors see that. And so it can be very scary to jurors as well. Well, this particular defendant caused a mistrial and caused all sorts of issues. And so his case didn't end up going, and it got adjourned. And by the time it did go, I was pregnant with twins. And because it's a high-risk pregnancy, I wasn't allowed to try the case. The case goes to trial, and I didn't know what to do because, this is a really dangerous guy. I couldn't try the case. And a young prosecutor, this is the early 90s, a young prosecutor who had just started, but was clearly distinguishing himself as he was going to be an exceptional prosecutor. He volunteered and he said, I'll do it for you. He saw that I couldn't do it. He saw how serious it was. He saw that the guy would be released if the case didn't go, because he was incarcerated. And he also wasn't afraid or intimidated by this scary guy who attacked corrections officers, police officers, had a long record. And so he goes forward and tries the case. The defendant waives the right to an attorney. And so he cross-examined everyone himself. And in fact, during the trial, he was so disruptive, just like this guy, rather than being held in contempt, the judge actually excluded him from the courtroom, and he was out that entire time. Well, P.S. that really nice up-and-coming superstar prosecutor who helped out a pregnant woman who couldn't try her case and who wasn't afraid was none other than Jack Smith. So that's my Jack Smith story and my disruptive, scary juror story, or scary defendant story. And P.S. the jurors were equally terrified in this particular case of that individual. And so it happens, and there are crazy defendants who waive their right to have an attorney present, and they disrupt the courtroom, and judges keep these individuals under control. But this is a scary, scary individual who, testified at his own trial. He called January 6th a beautiful day. He liked the fact that senators and members of Congress feared for their lives. He's a scary guy who is going to be convicted, and I bet he's going to get a lot of time in prison.
Agree with you there, Karen. Great story about Special Counsel Jack Smith. You were, I think, the first person out there publicly saying, I know Jack Smith back in November of 2022. Here is my experience with him, just stating the facts about him and what a great prosecutor he was. And I just remember that day so vividly, where there was all of this, it's like a campaign against Jack Smith that day. It's like from people who don't even have facts and info. And so you and I spoke, and you're like, Ben, I know Jack Smith. Let's go live right now. I want to let people know, here's just what I know about Jack Smith and what this tells me about the way this is going to be handled. And, you've been right every step of the way. And as we talk about someone like Brandon Fellows here, or some of these other January 6th people and who are Trump co-conspirators. I mean, that's who they are. And all of them say the reason that they're there was because of Donald Trump. Donald Trump continues to support them. And so just want to remind people of this. This is who Donald Trump is referring to, among other people, when he gives speeches this is at CPAC, right? CPAC, which is an organization which is run by someone who's been sued civilly, been sued by a Republican male for this individual, I think it's Matt Schlapp, who runs CPAC, for the allegations are sexually assaulting him. And the person who's suing him worked at the Herschel Walker campaign. There's apparently other allegations that are out there. It's been reported. There's been reported that there were settlement negotiations and discussions there. So I say that because Schlapp runs CPAC. Trump is at CPAC, and this is what Trump is saying about people like this January 6th insurrectionist. And this is what Trump's saying. Here, play this clip.
The Antifa thugs who are allowed to roam the streets while we have people that in many cases are great patriots, great patriots, saying prayers every night, playing our national anthem every day, and they're sitting in a jail nearby, rotting away, and being treated so unfairly, like nobody's probably ever been treated in this country before, except maybe me. And Marjorie, you've been so fantastic on that issue. Where's Marjorie? You've been so fantastic on that issue.
He's saying that Marjorie Taylor Greene's been fantastic on the issue of supporting the terrorists from the January 6th insurrection. And Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Republican parties, they make, I'm not making this up, they make songs with them and they put them out on Apple Music. They send congressional delegations to go with them in jail and say, let's go Brandon, and do chants. Like, that's not normal behavior at all. And it's not a political viewpoint of me to say that's not normal. It is a very, very dangerous thing where actually what's being politicized is saying this is normal political discourse to support these despicable, disgusting terrorists. It's not normal. We're going to call it out here on Legal AF each and every day. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Karen Friedman Agnifilo. Go to MeidasTouch.com for all breaking news in our country and the world. And also, wherever you get audio podcasts, make sure you subscribe to Legal AF.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.